Hey, it's Nate Savage here, and if you want to play a little more like David Gilmour, this is going to be a great video lesson for you to dig into because we're going to take a look at the first solo for Comfortably Numb, and we're going to look at more than just the notes. We're going to take a look at how Gilmour's probably thinking as he's playing over these chord changes. Here it is, give it a listen. All right, this is one of those solos that has been one of my more requested videos over just forever, and I'm finally getting to it. So if you want to hear the second solo for this song too, leave a comment below, or if you have another request for a popular guitar solo that you would like to see a video on, let me know in the comments too. And as usual, the jam track and the tab for this are on the guitarfam.com site, so make sure to go there. The link is below for you to download those resources. And if you haven't yet, go to guitarfam.com and create your complimentary account. You'll have access to the first module of all of our premium courses, plus all of our free courses too. Kind of on that note as well, I'm just finishing up a blues course right now that should be out in the next few weeks, so that's something you can be looking forward to on the site. Okay, if you want to know what I'm using for tones on this, it's just HX Stomp direct in, and it's just like a carbon copy as close as I could get to Gilmour's tone. Just a high watt through a Marshall cab, a short delay, a long delay, that's I believe it's 8 notes, and then a chorus in between the two delays, and then just a nice plate reverb at the end. And the fuzz pedal before this is just, you know, the, what is it, the bull fuzz? Something like that. I'll put the right one up here. That's, I'll put a screenshot of the tone here on here if you're interested in that. But it's just basically whatever the internet said is a Gilmour tone. I think it got pretty close. Okay, it's important to know what chords we're playing over because David Gilmour really does follow the chord tones in a way that's very creative, but it's still, it kind of unlocks the fretboard for you, so he's a really great guitar player to study. The first 4 measures are just alternating between a D major and an A major. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We'll keep the chords coming as we go through this. So the first measure, I'm thinking as far as chords, I'm thinking this D major all the way up here. So it's just like an open D major, but it's an octave higher, and I'm using it kind of as a bar right there. So that's the picture in my mind that I'm playing or thinking about as I see this. And it starts on the 14th fret. And you can use whatever finger you want. I think I use my 3rd finger on that. And has a lot of vibrato too here. And he kind of alternates between hand vibrato and whammy bar vibrato. So if you don't have a guitar with a whammy bar on it, don't worry about that. Just do finger vibrato. But if you have, it's a little bit different sound, so it might be something you want to experiment with if you haven't looked into that before. So that's the first note, and here's the first lick. We'll just take this measure by measure and lick by lick. Okay, so 14, and then 14 again, bend it up, half step, let it down. And that's really the end of what I'm thinking about as far as this D major chord. And this is the 3rd of the chord up here. And that's what I'm doing, so I'm bending 3 up to 4 over the D chord. There. And throughout this song, you'll hear people say, oh, I'm thinking D mixolydian or whatever. I'm really not thinking that. I'm thinking D major. And then when the C chord comes up, that is out of the key, so I adjust for the individual C chord. That's what I'm thinking most of the time. I'm just thinking individual chord shapes for playing over this mostly. And then connecting it with some scale pattern. So that first lick. From there, you go to 15, and I use my pinky. And as soon as I do that, I'm instantly thinking this A major shape. But my pinky is on the 15th fret, and I'm bending that up a whole step. And you may be thinking, well, that's outside of the chord. Yeah, it's this A major shape, because we're playing over A chord, but we're going to the 4th and bending up to the 5. And really, I'm thinking about this G major shape that uses the A, that's an A chord. But more than that, see this A right in there? That's really the shape that I'm thinking about. So bend 15 up, put some vibrato on it, let it down, then hit 15 again. And then we're getting into this A shape. You go to 14 with your index finger, and then 14 of the B string, 14 of the G string, 14 of the D string. And that's pretty quick. You have to roll your fingers so the notes don't bleed over each other. And you can sweep it, or you can alternate pick. And sometimes I sweep it, sometimes I alternate pick. It depends what I'm in the mood for. So that whole first lick is thinking about da, 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 or this A. Da, da. So just try to visualize those chords as you play through this. So. Some vibrato, and then slide down from 14 to 12. And when you slide down from 14 to 12, right there, where you're getting back into this D major, because this is the beginning of the next measure, right? And you're going back to this D major chord, and you're just hitting the root, that D note there on the 12th fret. So I'll play those whole first two measures for you. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, from there you go back to 14 because we're still thinking of this D chord. And you go, and this is well, first off, for the rhythm for the solo, I would highly, highly, highly recommend just listening to this over and over again until you can sing the solo. That'll make learning and repeating the rhythms here a lot easier because there's some odd rhythms in here as far as triplets, dotted triplets even, that are a little bit hard to conceptualize unless you're a really good reader. So just listen to it over and over again and get to where you can sing it really well. But at the end of that phrase, you go, at the end of the third measure, you go back up to the 14th fret, hit 14 up a half step, and when you bend, use as many fingers as you can to help push up on that. It's just a half step bend. Hit it and let it back down, and then come back. And this is where we change back to an A chord. So this is really the chord. Either you can think of this G shape or this A shape, whichever one you want. And I think of those at the same time because this A shape is kind of central to both of them, right? So back to 15, bent up, whole step. And then we have kind of the same frets, 15 again, pull off to 14, and now you're in this A shape. And then you roll your third finger over to 14, roll it over again to 14 of the D string, slide down to 12. And this is where I kind of stop thinking about chord shapes for a little bit and just start thinking about a scale to connect this A major that I'm playing over to a C that's coming up in the next measure. So slide from 14 to 12 there, and then I go 11, and then sometimes I slide back to 9, and then slide again back to 7, but sometimes I just grab 7 with my index finger. It really depends, but I'm pretty sure he's sliding throughout those three notes. So 11, 9, 7. Okay, so let me play from the end of measure 3 real quick for you again. Okay, and I guess I do like ending on my index finger because of what's coming up here next. What I have to do is, if you have a whammy bar, what I do is I go up to the 10th fret, push the whammy bar down before I hit the note, and then let it up, and then use the whammy bar for some vibrato. If you don't have a whammy bar, I would do it on the 9th fret and just do a step and a half bend. This is a little tougher, but if you have a whammy bar, 10th fret, and just bend up a whole step. And use your whammy bar for the vibrato there. And you can tell the difference between regular vibrato and the whammy bar vibrato on this tab. Regular finger vibrato has just a little small squiggly, and whammy bar vibrato has that really wide the V squiggles. So let me play the whole thing for you up to this point. Again, that note that I landed on, that I'm bending up to, is a G, and G is the 5th of a C major chord. So really, I'm bending up a whole step, so I'm targeting that G right there on the 12th fret of the G string, and I can look at it. I can see this C major shape, I see that that note is right in there for that C major shape. And that's what I'm thinking about for that. So from there, I scoot up to the 11th fret with my third finger, hit that in this kind of a choked note, then 9 on that same G string, and then back to 7 with some vibrato on the whammy bar. And really when I think, I've stopped thinking about what chord I'm playing over here, and I'm just thinking a D major scale. Okay, so ba, 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 and then I come back up to 11 and pull off to 9 real quick. So I'll start on the measure before that over the A, and you can hear what those notes sound like for the rhythm for it. And again, listen to the solo a ton before you even start trying to learn it. That'll help a lot. Okay, so I'll play all the way from the end of the third measure up to where we've covered so far over the C chord. So. Okay, so when you stop there, you hit 9 again and slide down to 7 and hit 7 again. And he's putting vibrato on any note that's held out for any length amount of time. You'll see in the tabs using his whammy bar here to put some vibrato on there. But this note is very important because he's targeting on the first part of the measure over the G chord. He's really hitting this D note, which is the 5th of the G chord. So that it's a really good target note. And the chord I'm thinking about as I play this is just this C-shaped G chord. That's what I'm trying to visualize as I hit that. And from here, I really just start thinking about a G major pentatonic because we have this lick. Okay, so as I'm playing that, I'm still thinking this C shape. I'm just thinking the major pentatonic that goes with that C shape in that particular location for G. So I have 9, 7 on the G string, a pull off, 9 on the D, back to 7, 9 on the G, and then I come back, I slide up, I get out of this position, I go up to 11 on the G string, which that is just bending up to a G note, right? Which is the chord tone, the root note for this G chord, and it's the 5th of the chord in the next measure, which is a C chord, right? So the next measure, as soon as we hit that, this chord changes to C in measure 7. And I'm thinking, I'm playing that note, I'm bending it up to this G right here, half step on the 12th fret, right? But I'm thinking this C major shape, just for a split second, right? So that whole lick of the second half of that measure of G in measure 6. And that note he's bending up, he bends it up really slow, so really, and that rings out through about half of the next measure. Okay, halfway through that measure of C, we end up shifting up here to the 15th fret. And I end up thinking a little bit of G major here, or at least G major pentatonic with an F sharp thrown in, because here's the lick, 15, pull off to 14, 12, so then 15, 12 in the next measure, and then 12, roll over to the G string, and then 12 of the D string. So it really feels like I'm telegraphing that there's a G coming up by playing a G major pentatonic and throwing that F sharp in there. Of course, you can look at this as just playing the key of D major and just making sure not to hit a C sharp because we're playing over a C chord. But anyway, we land on that D note on the 12th fret of the D string for this lick, which is cool because the D note is the 5th of G, which is the chord we're playing over. So we hit that note, and then we just come down to 10, and slide down to 9, and then hit 9 again. Okay? And we're playing over a G, so we land on a B note. I'm really targeting this B note out of the G chord, and all I'm doing is thinking this G chord with this C shape, right? It's the 3rd of the G chord, so that's pretty cool. And then once I do that, well, let me play that whole thing from that little pentatonic lick over the C. So. And I am doing the whammy bar there, or at least I'm trying to, don't always, so. From there, you have a little kind of a trill thing. It's not really a trill. You just go back up to 10 with your second finger, pull off to 9, and then hit 7, slide down to 7, which is cool because that note right there is an A, the root note of the next chord in the next measure. We're just telegraphing a little bit early, and Gilmour does a lot of this. He kind of leads you into the next chord before it even gets there, which is very pleasing to the ear, and I think that's one of the reasons why his melodies and solos are so memorable and just so good in general. All right, so let me go through this from halfway through measure 6, where you have that kind of quicker pentatonic run. Let that ring out. All right, that last little lick in measure 8 is telegraphing again, going to an A because we landed on that A, and we hold that out through almost the whole next measure until the very end of that measure where we goes to a G over B, the do da do, you know. But I just look at that as a passing chord, and I'm getting the 10th fret of the G string. What I do is I do another full step bend, but I pre-bend it down with my whammy bar again. And what I'm doing is bending an F up to a G. Right, an F to a G, and all I'm doing is targeting that G note, but bent, because G is the 5th of C, which is in the next measure. And hit that, and then on the 1 of the next measure, hit it again, while it's still bent up. You can put some vibrato on it. So, okay, then go down to 9, bend it up once, then bend it up once and let it down. Okay, and I'm just kind of I'm thinking just a D major scale here again. So 2 up to 3, 2 up to 3 again, back down to 2, 1, that D on the 7th fret of the G string. And then to finish things off, we're gonna wanna land on something nice and consonant for the D chord that's coming up to resolve this whole thing. And so I just go 7, slide up to 9, from 7, slide back down to 7, and then 7 with a whammy bar to finish things off. And all I'm doing is targeting, thinking about this D chord A shaped, targeting the 5th there, that A note on the 7th fret. All right, so let me go from that same spot there. Second half of measure 6, there you go. Okay, so there's a lot to think about here, and the cool thing about this solo is like there aren't too many chords. There are only 4 chords really that you're playing over. So getting used to singing your D majors, A majors, C majors, and G majors all over the fretboard like this is a really helpful way to solo, because you're always going to have at least 3 notes depending on the shape. You know, if you have this D chord right here, and then move to the A, to G, back to D. That's the way I think about soloing a lot. I just think about chord shapes, trying to connect stuff to make it interesting with pentatonic scales or major scales in between. Okay, I gotta say that after digging into the solo and transcribing it, which is really the best way to learn guitar in my opinion, to find out what's really going on besides, you know, just memorizing fret numbers, David Gilmour has, I don't want to say academic, but very solid sound kind of approach to soloing, because this is the way I kind of think about soloing too. I think about the chord shapes, and then every once in a while connect it with a scale shape, and then I go back to the chord shapes and fill in a note here or there outside the chord. So it's a really great way to think about playing for guitar, because you're a lot less prone to get lost in big scale shapes or just the notes on the fretboard. Or like, where am I? Like if you know, like this D shape right up here gives you a lot of the notes that you need when you're playing over a D chord. You're a lot more likely to not get lost and hit some really cool notes if you're improvising. Okay, that's it for this video. Like I said, if you haven't, go to guitarfam.com and create a complimentary account. You'll get access to the first module of all of our premium courses and then all of our free courses too. And every Guitar Fan member gets one personal private one-on-one lesson with me. I'll be looking forward to meeting you. See you.